We begin in West Africa. Ghana is battling its worst economic crisis in a generation amid a currency crisis that has worsened the nation's fiscal position. The Ghanaian currency, Cedi, became the worst performing currency in the world after it lost 45.1% of its value to the dollar last year. And in Nigeria, the central bank has extended the timeline to swap out its old currency for redesigned notes after the change triggered a cash shortage, forcing businesses to close and leaving millions unable to withdraw their money. So, what's causing this tumble and what really happens to the old, dilapidated currency notes? Here now is a report.
A deep financial crisis is crippling Nigeria, and the government is scrambling to douse tensions. The people are desperate for money. The hunger for cash is prevalent. ATM queues sneaking through the streets before dawn have become far too common, sometimes leading to brawls at banks. The desperation is causing many to vandalize and attack ATM machines. The turmoil in the country's banking sector was sparked by a government decision to make people swap their old currency for newly minted banknotes.
When the people at the bottom of the pyramid in particular were affected, so they just didn't have cash, they couldn't make transactions. I mean, heard stories about factories stopping because they couldn't pay their workers. We heard stories about food in the fields rotting because we couldn't pay the workers to pick the food. And I mean, the amount of suffering that was caused by it, is really terrible. It was completely unnecessary.
It's not only Nigeria which is on the verge of a tear-jerking misery. Its neighbor Ghana is facing one of its worst economic crises in decades. Soaring inflation is compounding the sufferings of many Ghanaians who now have to dig deeper into their pockets to afford essential goods. The country's currency, the Cedi, has taken a dip, causing the central bank to worry. Ghana's central bank has warned the general public to stop using Cedi banknotes as bouquets and hampers when gifting people. It said the currency was issued to be used as a medium of exchange for the purchase of goods and services.
The Cedi, issued by the Bank of Ghana, is a trading currency. It was not intended for use as bouquets or hampers. So those of us in business, if you're listening, let's put a stop to this behavior.
We have the situation with people spraying money at weddings, and of course they get to need new notes for that. Now we have Ghana having kind of a similar tradition on that. I mean, I personally don't think it's something that the central bank should concern itself with.
But what do you do with money that has been declared outdated or old? The process of demonetization began in 2019 when the Ghanaian central bank issued a deadline to swap old 1,000 shilling banknotes, which would later be termed useless cash. Kenya printed and rolled out the new currency note the same year, but thousands were left pondering what to do with the huge stacks and bundles of cash at their disposal. The black market at the borders was the only option left for most. Selling old money became a thriving business. Others opted to frame the notes or created souvenirs.
In the case of old notes, we've always had a situation where you should be able to take your old note to the bank, and the bank then returns to the central bank, and the central bank has it destroyed. And of course, you say, well, the money's being destroyed, but of course, the central bank can print as much money as it wants. So it just then prints a new note that it gives back to the bank, that gives back to the person.
There comes a time in the life of every banknote where it can no longer be used, though in some circumstances, it may still have some value. According to research, central banks across the globe destroy billions of banknotes each year, an action which has been described by analysts as an important part of the cash cycle. When there is also enough proof that a banknote is counterfeit, it is destroyed to prevent it from circulating. It is still not clear how much it costs for the government to replace the destroyed notes. Bureau Report, WION World is One.